Ladies and gentlemen, we are live. Are we actually live? Or am I just messing around? And now we're live. Hello, beautiful people around the world. I should probably turn off my notifications over here so I don't get spammed while I'm chatting. We've got a great show. I never really know how to start these because I always want to give you time, Justin, to get us shared. So should I just keep talking to myself here, like pumping up the imaginary crowd? That's a yes. He doesn't want to pop on here, so he doesn't take up the screen space. But yeah. I'm just gonna keep chatting. Just gonna keep talking. I don't think we're totally shared to SMUG yet. Justin, you let me know one way or the other. I should get a notification here, I think. That awkward technology part where okay. I see my face. I see myself talking to myself. Usually a good sign. Are we in SMUG, buddy? Are we good? You talking to me in chat? I'm all alone. We're good. I'm totally joking. Welcome everyone as you guys join in. Justin will let me know if you guys mention anything in chat here. But yeah, we've got a great show. We're going to talk about the 6.7 release, which we're all thankful to have out, and I'm so thankful to kind of get that feedback from you guys. And yeah, it's exciting stuff. Let me pop this up just so I can see the chat. Move this over here, and let's get started. So I'll give everyone kind of a few minutes before I dive into the 6.7 stuff too deeply. So I'm going to start with a couple other just general updates as far as the month of March is going to kind of be for ServiceMonster. So first and foremost, we have a mobile app build that's in QA. So the last build was 1.4.14, fixed quite a few bugs, a couple other things in there. 1.4.15 is in QA. It's going to be in QA all of next week. And then depending on how things go, we'll kind of look at basically 2 weeks from now is kind of when we're looking at when that potentially rolls out. There's a ton more bug fixes. We've been really just trying to get the app in a polished state. We did resolve the daylight savings time issue. I was extremely frustrated and let down that we didn't get that out before the actual time change this last Sunday, which, speaking of which, does anyone else hate daylight savings time as much as I do? Every single spring, I'm just miserable for like a week after the time change. Just nothing feels right. I wish we'd just settle on one of them and just kind of stick with it, but I sound more and more like my parents every time I complain like that. So anyways, that change is in this release. So moving forward, when we have time changes, you no longer have the weird display issue where the appointments show an hour off on the schedule. So everything for the appointment itself is correct. So like all the time is mentioned that is correctly. Your technicians see the correct time, which is why many of you maybe don't even realize that this glitch exists. And it's only on the day of the time change, which is always a Sunday, and a lot of you guys don't necessarily work on Sundays. So, but I do know it's frustrating for those who are working. And so we have that resolved. I'm sorry that we missed this last cutoff, but that will be resolved moving forward. It was actually a pretty difficult issue. We've had a couple of attempts at this in the past, but we're confident this time that we found the core issue and got that patched. So that's in there. There's a bunch of other bug fixes, and there's also a cool little beta kind of behind the scenes feature that's there as well, which I'll talk more about here in just a minute. So that's what's coming on mobile. We also are working on some things behind the scenes to give us better communication to everyone, so all of our users, so that when we have a new release, there's better paths of communication to let you know what's new. Maybe kind of shine a spotlight on some of those things. So rather than you discovering it, 3 months down the road, it's something that you guys will be able to kind of see more quickly, and just kind of help with that communication on that front, and also kind of help where we need to have the in-app guides. We're going to be replacing that system. So we're going to be having more help guides and things like that. So again, with new features, we can kind of help drive understanding of how those features work in a much faster way. Those of you guys who like to experiment and are, kind of the power users and so forth, maybe not as big of a deal, but for those of you who really like to stick kind of in your lane until you have time to test, right? We really want to help kind of show those new features without them being too intimidating, right? So that's kind of the big goal there. We still are working on some UI UX improvements. I mentioned that last month. That's going to be an ongoing thing throughout the year. So kind of just, small updates over time, and a couple of them will be a little bit larger, but really just kind of improving that UI UX experience for all of you. So we're also going to be working on some training sessions very specifically targeted to those who are still stuck on the older system. I know at this point, a lot of it's just a comfort thing for you guys. We really want to focus on having some training opportunities that really help kind of the standard workflows. Hey, this is how I do something in the legacy app. How do I do it in the new version? So we're working on all of those things kind of behind the scenes. And then we also have a couple of events that are coming up. So first and foremost, we have a live stream with one of our integration partners, Responsibid. Zach, who is the sales director here at ServiceMonster, and myself will be joining Kurt Kimpton. If you guys don't know him, he's the CEO of Responsibid. Fantastic individual. We're going to be doing a show with him on March 29th. And more details are going to be posted in SMUG next week. So you kind of have the details as far as the timing, the link for that, and so forth. And we're really going to be talking about retention, and kind of talking about the tale of two companies. One who is following kind of best practices for retention, and one who's not, and kind of what that looks like over time, how that limits your growth as a company, and so forth. And so if you guys are interested, learning more about, that conversation as far as retention goes, or just if you have questions about Responsibid and ServiceMonster, it'd be a great thing for you guys to attend. So we're also going to be sponsoring one of the dinners and offering a 1-year premier subscription at the charity auction at Mikey's Fest. So I know some of you guys are going. If you guys know Jordan King, I know he will be there. He's one of the speakers that's going to be there. And I think there are some other ServiceMonster users as well who are going to be going. Unfortunately, I was trying to attend this year, but unfortunately I had some things on my schedule, so I can't quite make it. But we wanted to make sure we still had kind of an appearance there. And so be on the lookout for that. If you guys are at Mikey's Fest, definitely be on the lookout as far as the charity auction and so forth. So, and definitely listen to Jordan because he's fantastic. So I'm not just saying that because he's maybe on here. I don't think he's on here yet, but yeah. Okay, so I don't think there's anything that's come up on the question front there. So I'm going to dive into 6.7. We've already had some fantastic feedback from many of you. I appreciate that all around. The two biggest features are we introduced the month view, and we also have we're calling it kind of the Fill My Schedule 2.0, but it's really, it's building the Fill My Schedule feature into ServiceMonster directly. So there's self-help. You can, have your own custom fronts, your own custom campaigns. All that can be driven through the app itself rather than having to come through us for every little change and things you guys have to do. So for example, if maybe you guys wanted to build a spring campaign, maybe kind of test the waters, maybe have a custom front, custom design that you build and have a spring campaign, maybe try stepping through that. Let us know kind of how that goes. If you run into any situations where you have questions or so forth, our support team's always willing to help, but it might be a way that you guys can kind of dip your toes into the process while keeping your 8-step, kind of the recurring 8-step campaign going behind the scenes until you're ready to make that change as well. So, let's just say it. How about by April, by the next time we have a show, let's have a couple of our viewers maybe run a spring campaign or something, kind of give us that feedback either here or in SMUG. That's my challenge to you guys. We also had some smaller updates that were in there. So, the marketplace got cleaned up a little bit to make it easier to tell what's a tool that we built to help for the integration versus someone who's like an actual third party that you're working with. We made a couple of improvements to the email process. We made a bunch of improvements to the contracts grid for those of you who are using those recurring kind of contract appointments and billing. we also added the batch update tool to pending activities. So a ton of stuff there. We have the release notes that Justin, can you make sure that those get posted in the actual SMUG post here? And go check it out if you haven't. Also, if you're using the legacy app and maybe the month view is one of the reasons that you were over there, maybe take a look at the new schedule. I think we've had some pretty positive feedback of the month view so far for those who use it. Some of you guys like to just kind of stick to the week or two ahead of you because you're not scheduled out that far. That's totally okay. But we're definitely excited. I kind of wanted to take a moment just to maybe do a quick screen share of a couple of the items, just so you guys are kind of aware. I know I've done this in the past, but let me just throw this on here. And it'll also be nice just to have this up for the questions that are coming in here. So I should have done this actually on a week. So the last week I actually have some appointments on here. But you can see if I swap to the month view, which is just up here at the top, is a simple UI change, I can see everything scheduled for the month as a whole. And right now I'm looking at all of my resources. So I've got 2 different routes, but I can also just swap to an individual route. So I can just say, hey, I just want to see what Adam's route looks like. And you can see that I actually have the details for each day, right? And then I can still see conflicts. I can still see, what type of appointment it is. I can still see, information about the appointment itself with the hover. I can still click on a day and get the detailed information over here on the right. Also, for those of you guys who have a larger schedule and just have a ton of information over here, try out this compact view. It's pretty slick. Just kind of, it just allows you to have much more visibility on here with just a little bit cleaner. If you have a ton of appointments that are kind of showing there, it might be easier for you and your staff. So maybe take a look at that. You can still easily jump to the week view by either double clicking on a day or using any of these prompts like this click here, the right click, etc. So I can still jump into, the week view. Boom, and I'm right there, and I can still schedule and move things around. But the month view just kind of gives you that 10,000 foot view, right? So it also shows you how full your day is. Maybe you guys kind of saw that. So once you get over 100, it's indicating that you're going to be into that overtime period. So you want to be scheduling as close to 100% as you can. Obviously, some of you guys, if you do need to go over, not always the end of the world, but obviously you don't want to have consistent overtime and things like that because it is more expensive, right? So, but yeah, you can definitely see how full the day is. And so as you go out, you can say, hey, I know which days to be looking for right away and can try to schedule on those days if it works with your client. That's the one other thing I wanted to touch on. Well, we had the 6.7 release, which is fantastic. We've also had a couple of smaller releases since then, 6.7.1 and 6.7.2. Both of those were focused primarily on just a couple of bug things that we kind of found, both in the release itself and just some ongoing things we wanted to get fixed. And then they also introduced something new. So the big thing that we did was we've had a lot of feedback from you guys who are using a specific view on the schedule. We had made a change to these arrows here. So the single arrow moves forward 1 month or 1 year when you're on the month view. On the week, it moves forward or backwards 1 week or the same time period next or previous month. This used to be 1 day and 1 week. Problem is, if you have a standard week view, once you would get into a weird state where you would say, hey, I want to go to, forward 2 days. I'm highlighting March 6th. And sometimes you could get the schedule out of sync. And so when we introduced the month view when we were doing testing, there was some back and forth that we had, and it would kind of put the week in a weird view occasionally. And so what we did was we just kind of universally said, hey, let's just make this the 1 week and the 1 month view. On release, many of you kind of came out and said, hey, this isn't working for me. And as I looked deeper into it, it's because of the settings you have for the display of your schedule. And it made total sense as kind of we were diving into this and kind of really trying to find a solution that would work for both sides. So we didn't have those weird schedule issues when you're transferring views, but also make sure that you guys were happy with your navigation. So for those of you who don't know, if I go into the settings here, there are some display settings that I can turn on. I can say, hey, I want the week view to actually be a week view and just customize which day is the start of the week. Most of you are either Sunday or Monday, right? But I have seen some that work, like a Tuesday through Saturday kind of thing or something like that. But you can set the week to view like that, or you can say, hey, I want this current day setting. And then you can customize it even further. You can say, hey, I only want to see one day at a time. So I'm just looking at literally basically turning my week view into a day view. Or I can say, hey, I want to show, up to 10, which is another thing that I saw pretty common. So that way they can see more at once without having to scroll week to week. But there's a pretty big difference here in that when you have this setting, you're no longer looking at a static week. You're basically kind of looking at a customized day view where it's like you're saying, hey, this is the day view, but I also want to see X amount of days in addition to that. And when you're in this view, if I select a specific day, it moves the schedule so that day is the first day of the week. It's the whole point of the custom display setting. And so when you're in that view, the single back and forth with the one day actually makes a ton of sense. You can see that I'm just moving my schedule forward, and it's actually just, the whole schedule is shifting as I do this, right? So anyways, long story short, I'm getting a little bit too into the weeds here, most likely, if any of you guys are curious, but that's kind of why we were working through this. And you guys were very adamant that this was a big time saver for you, because with the change we made, you guys are having to go into the widget here and actually selecting that day instead of just having the arrow. Right? So you can see that it's just an extra click every time you want to do that. So this 6.7.2 release, which went out, when did that go out? Tuesday? Wednesday. Went out on Wednesday, and that reverted this change to these arrows for this particular setting. So if you're using the current day setting, these arrows once again move forward and backwards either one day or 1 week. So you have that. And so it took a little bit of testing and a little bit of nuance in how we went about doing that, but I appreciate the feedback you guys had immediately. I was able to talk to you guys and really understand what the core root of the problem was. And also we were able to find a solution that solved our previous issue before. So that's really what it boiled down to. I really just kind of wanted you guys to see maybe a sneak peek of behind the scenes of kind of how that process works, both communicating with you guys to find out what the problem is and also trying to figure out a solution that works all around as far as what the dev team kind of had to do from an engineering standpoint. So that's in there. But I wanted to mention those two releases. You can see our help articles. We have the release notes for those as well. That's 6.7.1 and 6.7.2. We also have a couple more releases coming out next week, largely for, again, opening up a beta program for a couple of users and also kind of introducing some other bug fixes and things like that. So be on the lookout for those. I got a little into the weeds there, Justin. Hopefully that was useful. We had a couple other things. I'm really curious. We made a kind of I don't want to call it a beta test, but we introduced something that I kind of wanted to hopefully get some feedback from some of you guys on the account details screen. We added the the tag widget functionality to the email fields. So before, this field looked like this, where you could separate your email addresses with a semicolon, so you could add additional there, and so forth. But it wasn't as clean or as understood when you added a second email. I still think there's a ton of improvements we can do in this area, but I kind of wanted to test the waters with this one change in this one specific spot. We're likely going to need to use a deeper widget if we want to implement this further, but I wanted to get you guys' feedback on, do you like the change as a whole, like kind of making this more like a modern email editor, your Outlooks and Gmails of the world, and kind of how they separate those email addresses out, kind of like the tagging system here. Or if there's any other improvements you like here, shout that out in the when you give us a watch. I already talked about FMS. Like I said, when you go to the FMS section here, if you're not using this, you can sign up. You don't have to contact us to go through that, but you can also learn more about FMS. So if you're in the U.S., because unfortunately the mailing only works in the United States, if you're in the U.S., you're interested in this direct mail program, go ahead and take a look. Go and sign up. If you guys are current users, maybe you want to go give it a try to build the spring campaigns rather than coming through us for a spring campaign. Maybe try building your own and see how that process goes. So all in all, though, we're incredibly excited to get this release out for you guys. Thank you all for the feedback, both positive and for the discussions for fixing that issue, like on the calendar widget. It's been great to get this one out, and we're excited for what's coming out in 2024, which is on the horizon. So continue to watch this show. There are some big time features you guys are going to be excited about coming out later this year. The first big one that we're working on a beta program for is the new version of ServiceMonster Pay. So we've talked about this a little bit in the previous months, but we're going to have a new version. It's going to have newer features. It's going to have a different backer. We're really focused on response time in terms of when you actually get your deposits. I know that cash flow is a big concern for you guys. And then we're building towards actually having card present options. So the initial release will not have card present, but it'll be shortly after that. We're going to have a device that you guys can potentially purchase if you wish to. And then we'll have that card present functionality on top of all the other additional rich features we'll be adding to this over time. So that's what's coming in the very near future. We have some amazing beta users who have opted in to kind of help us through that first kind of trial period, just to kind of make sure that we've got everything worked out before we open it up to the general public. So that's going to be going on for the next month or two. And then, yeah, we'll have a brand new version, and we're excited for that. Outside of that, I'm going to keep you guys, I'm going to be that guy. I'm going to keep you guys just a little bit tantalized for wanting more. Maybe next month I'll be able to talk about what's coming next. But I don't want to give hopes too quickly, because there are two major features that we're working on, that there's something that you guys are all demanding and wanting. And so they're definitely something that this should have positive feedback from you guys. But I want to wait a little bit more until we have kind of the full scope locked in. And I've gotten feedback from those who I've been trying to reach out to, and so on and so forth. Because sometimes we can get ourselves in trouble and we can promise things too quickly, and we can lose some of that excitement. So don't hate me for that. We'll maybe talk about it in the April show, May at the absolute latest. So just be on lookout for that. We've got some exciting stuff definitely coming down the pipeline. Whew. Let's see what else we've got. There are a couple of SMUG posts I wanted to shout out. The first one was, we had a big thread on my post when 6.7 went live. And there was just tons of feedback on there. I appreciate everyone who chimed in. I also appreciate those who chimed in to help a couple of other users who had questions that came up. They immediately were answered by even a couple of you guys on the SMUG post, so I appreciate that. I also want to give just a special shout out to Paula and Jordan and Donna and Justin. They were the ones who really kind of went the extra mile, had conversations with me about kind of the functionality that I mentioned as far as that current day view. Gave a ton of great feedback, understood the real pain points there. We're able to get a solution turnaround for them in a couple of days. And so appreciate all of that. So I also, there's a question from Tina that came in last week. Maybe it was on Monday. And she was asking, she'd had help before, and she'd asked about a feature where when you're on the quick add, there's an additional page that's a little bit hidden. She kind of asked about that. And so Brenda this time was able to jump in immediately, but last time we actually had some of our users, I think it was actually Alan, but we had some users who helped her. So I always wanted to kind of shine a light on that. But I also wanted to showcase, if you guys weren't aware, if you're in the quick add and you're on the account screen, and I just do Adam Monster here. Sorry if I'm searching for Adam here. If you go in, if I'm making a new account here, there's actually a separate tab up here at the top. And we're looking at better maybe design elements to kind of help with this, because this does get kind of hidden when you look. There's a lot going on the quick add, so this is one of the areas where we're really trying to improve the UX. But there's this details tab. And so you don't have to have a follow-up step. I know some of you guys will say, hey, I'm going to make the account, then I'll jump into the account after the phone call and make the updates. But you can actually do it here for a lot of these items. So if there's an account subtype, maybe if they're a real estate agent or something like that, you can mention if they're tax exempt, or you can set the tax. So like if you've got a specific tax you need to apply, you can do it right here. And you can also either add a tag or a custom field in here as well, if you're someone who uses either of those features. So all of that can happen right as you're creating the account. Again, you don't have to save and then jump in there and then kind of go into the details and say, hey, okay, I need to go here and update this. I need to update the tax. I need to go into the profile. I need to update the custom field. So you can avoid those follow-up steps right there from the quick add. Whew. I haven't seen any questions come in. I don't know how many viewers we've got here. I hope that everyone who's on the live event itself is having a good day. And if you guys are watching the recording of this, which the majority of you guys do, and you have questions, don't hesitate to reach out to our support staff and ping that our way. I think that's it for the show, though. We tried to keep it to half an hour. Like I was going to open it up for kind of questions. Like I said, I don't think we have a ton of questions coming in right now, so I'll stop my screen share here and leave it there. Justin, appreciate your work behind the scenes. I think that we can call it there, and we'll be back in April, and we will see. Let's see what. It'll be, I think, April 12th, I believe, is when we'll be doing it. But we'll let you guys know in SMUG when we have that date locked down for that 3 o'clock on Friday. So until next time, guys, hope everyone has a fantastic St. Patrick's Day and fantastic weekend.